Good afternoon and welcome to BD TV. It's usual format today for any of you who've joined us before. Really punchy, 20 minutes, hearing directly from someone who's very active in marketing and BD in the professions, sharing their views. There's a chance for questions, and thanks to those of you who have already submitted questions in advance of this. And we'll also probably have a poll about halfway through the session. So thanks very much for joining. Today, I'm delighted to welcome along Tim Skipper. Now, Tim is founder and managing director of executive search consultants Totum Partners. And from my experience and my knowledge, no one is better placed to talk about the marketing and BD talent landscape in Britain. So thank you very much, Tim, for joining us.
Well, thank you for inviting me, and that's a very nice introduction. I'm delighted to be here. So let's do it.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks. Most people watching this, Tim, are marketing and BD leaders across mostly law and finance. How's that landscape for the marketing and BD function changed in the last 2 years?
Okay, well, the first thing I'd say is that the last 2 years has unquestionably seen all of the business services professionals in our clients rise to the challenge and get massive recognition for the value they've added. Whether that's BD, HR, finance, IT, CRO roles, the business services community is sitting right at the top table now, which is fantastic. On the BD side, I should say that we've spoken to several managing partners over the last year and a half, and many of them have said just how critically important the BD and marketing function has been during that period.
Yeah.
Whether it's to do with winning business, maintaining relationships with clients, refreshing the brand, moving to digital related activities. So the BD and marketing function is right where it should be, at the top table.
That's good to hear. Is that being recognized then in a rise in salaries and compensation?
Well, yes. I mean, at the moment, we'll talk about this in the next 20 minutes, I'm sure. There's a dearth of talent for certain key areas. And, you know, the salary inflation is right here as we speak. Well, I'm sure we'll talk about that. But
Okay. Well, jump straight. I'm not shy of jumping straight to the money. So let's return to that later if we may. So a dearth of candidates as you see it. What's driving that? Is that people having a rethink when they've been working from home during the pandemic?
Well, I think it's a couple of things. I mean, you've got the client and you've got the supply and the demand thing, haven't you? I mean, when April last year hit and we went into lockdown, I remember talking to one of my colleagues who recruits in that sort of 50 to 80K bracket in BD and marketing, slightly frustrated by the workload, 85 live roles. 2 weeks later after lockdown, there were 8. Wow. So things fell off a cliff. We're now back to a situation now. I spoke to the same person yesterday. We've now got 120 live roles on the go, and around 40 candidates live who could be put forward for those roles. She added that last week, one of the candidates that she's working with received 3 job offers in a week. Wow. So, you know, there's a lack of supply and an increased demand. Some of it's filling the roles that were put on hold last year. So BD and marketing teams and other function areas are really working hard on limited resource. So it's backfilling some of those roles. And it's also new roles that are coming up in various new emerging areas, which again, we'll probably touch on.
Mm. And when you see, so someone who's in as sweet a position as that candidate last week, having 3 job offers, is there a theme to what's most attractive in an employer at the moment? And is it the same sort of themes that you've seen during your career, or is that changing?
It's changed a bit. I mean, we do polls of candidates regularly to get their sentiments around what's important to them. I mean, as you'd expect, you know, the financials, the money is still important, particularly at the sort of junior to mid levels, where an increase of 10K if you're on 40K is very significant. But actually, there are other things at play here which are increasing, and it's about career development. It's about leadership from the functional director that they work with and from the managing partner. It's about culture. It's about values. It's about diversity and inclusion. All of these things go into the pot. The money's still in the pot, but there are lots of other things there that are really important too.
Yeah. Okay, and that's, you talk about values. That must be really difficult to get a true picture of what the values are when we're still in a sort of hybrid environment and people are people still interviewing mostly through video, or is it mostly face to face now?
Yeah, I mean, what we're finding now is that most first and sometimes second interviews are done remotely via Zoom or Teams. But when you get to the latter stages, you've got the face to face option, and that tends to be the way where we're at now. We placed over 100 people during lockdown where they didn't meet face to face, which is remarkable, isn't it? And to your point about, getting across your value proposition on a Zoom call, it's not that easy.
Yeah.
So it's been a challenge, but firms have worked through it.
Yeah. What's your advice? I know there's people on here listening live today who have spoken to you over the last 2 or 3 months and said, we've major gaps in our senior BD and marketing team. What's your advice to those people? Anything they should be changing or doing or tuning up?
Some obvious ones. If you can't get the permanent role hired, get an interim in who can do the job perfectly well, who might not be there for the long term, but can take the workload or lessen the workload for colleagues. Because, the health and well-being thing is so important here. And I'm digressing.
No, go ahead.
During the pandemic, the health and well-being of people working remotely at home, 12 hours a day, logging on at 8, leaving at 8, and coupled with the fact that roles, when they became vacant, weren't being filled, it was causing a real issue. But yes, using interims is an obvious one, but also being a bit more broad-minded. So, we 10 years ago, pretty much every role that we got needed experience in professional services. Nowadays, there is an opportunity to recruit some brilliantly talented people from outside. And as long as you give them the opportunity to succeed by helping them adapt to the environment for the first 3 to 6 months, you can come out of that with an amazingly fresh and interesting set of skills and perspectives.
Yeah. And do you see clients being more willing to do that, or is that something you're just trying to encourage them?
Yeah, some clients are willing to do that. There are certain roles which lend themselves particularly to looking outside. Some of the roles around digital, for example, skills outside of professional services are fantastic and sophisticated, and so that pushes clients in that direction. But yeah, I mean, when we do a senior search for a director of a function, we will say we are going to give you a shortlist which will include people from outside the sector, and they usually say they'll be interested. Get down to the last 2, quite often they go for the one with professional services experience.
Yeah.
Which is always a bit of a disappointment. But we're giving diversity is obviously important in all aspects, but we think that diversity around sector background is very important too.
Yeah, and I suppose some of the new roles emerging as well, things around the operational side, and what are you seeing? I'm asking a very poor question here. There's 2 questions within that. One is what new roles, what new job specs are you seeing coming through, and also with those fresher roles, do you think it's more appropriate to look outside of law and finance?
Yeah. So the new roles that are coming in, across all of the functions, and some of this will touch on BD and marketing, some of it won't, but roles with an innovation flavor, innovation and transformation. We've recruited, double figure numbers of heads of directors of transformation and change and innovation. Okay. That is very much in vogue. Other roles around pricing and BD do go hand in hand. Most pricing teams sit in finance, but a couple of firms have their pricing teams in BD, which is interesting. Roles around resource allocation and resource management, anything around digital and tech and data, they're very much emerging roles. And then the latest, we've had a couple of discussions with clients at the moment who are creating roles, BD focused roles on ESG and sustainability.
Yeah,
there's some really exciting stuff going on.
Yeah, great. And are those and the appeal on those roles? Are you sometimes bringing in people from technology side or FMCG? Yeah.
Very much so. Yeah, we've recruited a CTO recently who's never been near a professional services firm before. And they love the fact that he has got a completely different perspective, and they believe they can integrate him and enable him to succeed.
Okay.
Cultural partnership is somewhat idiosyncratic.
Yeah, understood. It sounds quite menacing, but I understand. What about one question that came in advance of today when people heard you were coming on, and something we've heard from other clients is what's going to be the balance between the capital and the regions? Is this good news? Hybrid working going to be good news for people living in the regions? Who are then appropriate for jobs where they only have to be in once a week or once every couple of weeks into London, and then the flip side of that, how are the regional firms going to fare?
Yes, I think the answer to this is you can give it from both a candidate and a client's perspective. So candidates will get opportunities to apply for roles in a wider geographical area, and consequently, they'll have more choice. I was talking to a firm last week up in the Northwest, and it was actually in the context of a lawyer candidate, but it's relevant because he had previously not been in a position where he could commute to Manchester. It was too far away. He was a newly qualified solicitor on 38k. Hybrid working meant that Manchester is agenda. He's moved to one of the top Manchester-based firms on a salary of 52. So there's an example of where access to a wider pool of opportunities for a candidate can have very beneficial outcomes. But clients will get more access to in the regions. Will get more access to people. There has been a little bit of, we're hearing anecdotally, people have had it with London, so they want to go and live somewhere else. The Southwest is a popular region in the UK, whether that's Bristol or down towards Devon and Cornwall, for obvious reasons. And so I think that clients are going to get more access to people from London who might be relocating, also people who might might be able to get to Bristol or somewhere like that 2 days a week and work them remotely the other 3. There is a salary issue here, isn't there, of course, because we've always had this London waiting or regional waiting. We run networks with heads of HR from a bunch of law firms, and one of the things that keeps cropping up is, what are we going to do about these regional variants? Are they going to go or are they going to stay? And they're still working it out.
Yeah. Okay.
It will play out.
Okay. You're not going to. Are you in a position to call that yourself? What you?
No, not really, because no one's really made a decision yet. Other than the fact that if a role is 100% home working, there is probably going to be a discounting of the salary.
Okay.
Because certain roles, not very many, you don't have to be in the office at all.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's interesting actually, because a few of our clients have said to me privately, once COVID's less of an issue, once it's less front page news, they expect a Threeline whip to be in the office at least 3 to 4 days a week. Are you seeing that yet? Are you hearing that?
No.
Okay.
I don't believe that will happen personally. Again, we run these groups, and it's very clear to us that it's going to be a combination. It's going to be either a 2-2-1, 2 in the office, 2 remote, 1 either or 50-50, or 60-40, 60 being in, 40 not.
Okay.
One firm has got a guideline which is just be in the office more than you're not. And if it compromises your colleagues or your clients, it isn't working. That's their kind of guideline. So they haven't even put percentages on it. I quite like it, actually.
Yeah.
Nice philosophy, I think. So I don't think so. And there's also a bit of sort of chat going around the market about US firms are going to get everyone back in the office.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's going to happen. We are hearing that some of the US offices are in international firms where they've got a significant office over here, then they are likely to gravitate more into the office in the US than they are over here, interestingly.
Okay. Oh, that is interesting.
But I don't know. And I think it will probably end up being that kind of 2-1, 50-50.
Yeah. One thing I heard this morning for the first time was one of the big four accountancy firms is effectively penalizing partners if they're not in the office 60% of the time. So I wasn't previously aware of that sort of that sort of micromanagement on the timing, but interesting to see that. But as you say, I haven't heard anything really substantive saying more than 3 days a week, other than a few slightly cynical partners thinking, I think that's going to happen in the future. But
yeah, it's interesting. I mean, we're running out of time probably, but one of the things that we've heard also, or we know, is that many firms are reconfiguring their office space, and they're using less space, and that does suggest that they're not going to be expecting everyone to be back in the office.
No, good point. I would love to return to, and I think it was one of the things you raised right at the start. I'd love to return to that in our poll, which is this idea of the value of business services changing during the pandemic. And I'm asking everyone who's live now. It's if you're watching this on YouTube, just to explain. There's a poll in front of the live viewers now to say, has there been a change in the perceived value of business services within your firm? And the range of answers go from no to yes, actually, I think they're less valued, but that will change post-pandemic. They're less valued, and I believe that perception will hold, to what I imagine is a more positive options for most people on the call. Yes, more valued, but I don't think that's going to stick post-pandemic, or more valued, and I believe that perception will hold. So I'm just going to give people a few moments more to give their option on that, and then I'd love to come across and ask you, Tim, if we may, what you think and what's behind that. So let me just.
I'm quite nervous about the results.
let me share it with you. I don't think there's anything that's going to scare the horses too much here.
Thank goodness for that.
Yeah, so just under a quarter saying they're not seeing any change. A small percentage, 6%, still saying actually feeling less valued in their firm, and they think that perception will stay. But let me see, over 70% are saying it. Concurring with what you said at the start, that more valued, and of those, most believe that's going to hold. So I'll just stop sharing that. So Tim, that matches what you're saying, and it comes back to the needs that you think firms have seen to have great leadership from marketing and BD during the pandemic to help them through it.
It does, and I'm delighted to see that. And I think that does reflect what we hear, and it's how it should be.
Yeah, good. And we talked earlier about salaries rising. Is that a bubble, or do you think that's here to stay as well?
It's a worrying trend. I think, you talk to marketing BD directors, and they bemoan the fact that, for the same amount of expertise pre-pandemic, they're paying up to 15%, 20% more. Yeah. Seeing counter offers all the time. We're seeing buybacks continue. Sorry, that's the same thing. We're seeing some sign-on bonuses appearing for really senior end hires.
Okay.
So look, for the time being, it's probably going to continue, because if you've got 120 vacancies and 40 strong candidates, it's inevitable, I think.
Yeah. No, as you said at the start, supply and demand's changed. Well, we'll see as we go into 2022 how that plays out for all of us. Final question for you, Tim, and something we've asked all our guests here. What is it you're most looking forward to once COVID's fully contained?
Okay. On a professional level, I'm looking forward to seeing a lot more of my colleagues, a lot more of my clients, and a lot more of my candidates face to face. It's something I've really missed, and it's something. Well, I like people, so I'd quite like to see them in person. So that's a very straightforward one. On a personal level, I'm looking forward to seeing an end to a situation where I go out for dinner or go to a social event, and the first 20 minutes is taken up with a discussion about whether I've had COVID, whether I've been vaxxed, whether I've had the booster, or how many days I'm going into the office.
Yes, yeah, I hear. Tim, you've just disappeared from view. I don't know. That's much better. Welcome.
Sorry.
Welcome back. Welcome back. No, it would be a good time to clean your screen in 2 minutes. But Tim,
I will do. Yeah.
It's been an absolute pleasure having you on today. Thanks very much for joining, and thanks for speaking so candidly about the area. And I wasn't just blowing smoke at the start. I think you're in a fantastic place to speak on behalf of what's happening in the talent market. So thanks for sharing those thoughts with us.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I've really enjoyed it.
Absolute pleasure. Speak soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.